On this podcast, you'll find interviews with high-performing, successful individuals in life sciences. On a weekly basis, we cover their proven methods, principles, strategies, and mindsets to implement new technologies that scale to meet the needs of people in our world.
Welcome to this episode of Life Science Success. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Don, and I am a digital marketer. And before we get started with our interview of Alba Panate Johnson, I wanted to just play a quick message from our sponsor.
This episode of Life Science Success is brought to you by D3 Digital Media Marketing. Dive into the digital world with confidence and creativity on your side. D3 Digital Media Marketing is your all-in-one solution for making a lasting impact online. From the vibrant, engaging world of social media marketing, podcasts, and webinars, to the strategic depths of website development, SEO, pay-per-click, email, and content marketing, we tailor our approach to fit your unique brand story. Let's elevate your presence, connect with your audience, and drive success together. Your digital journey starts here. Visit d3digitalmedia.com to learn more.
This episode of Life Science Success, we're going to be meeting with Alba Panate Johnson. She's responsible for business development and fiscal duties in support of Sugar Land, Texas. They have a comprehensive economic development activities that include business attraction, investment, and development, and implementing strategies that foster economic growth. So with that, welcome, Alba.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. Would you mind just taking a moment and telling the listeners a little bit about yourself? When I think about people sort of wanting to do something in their life, right? The one thing I've never thought of is like, hey, look, I'd like to be in economic development. But I would say you're probably like I want to say like 7th or 8th interview that I've had where we talked about different areas of the country and like, hey, look, this is my main thing that I do. And to me, it sounds like a very interesting job as well, because you probably get to meet lots of business leaders and do lots of different things.
No, absolutely. I mean, and then we like to say in economic development, you don't really start in economic development, you just kind of get there. But no, yeah, a little bit about me. I started at the city of Sugar Land actually in finance, and transitioned over to economic development about 5, 6 years ago. It's definitely been a journey. Every day is not the same, but really our priority is business retention, expansion, and attraction when it comes within our target industries. And we can, I know we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but it really delves into the financial analysis, cost analysis, and really site selection for every business. Every business is different in what they're looking for and what they're needing. And so we're here to provide that service and support.
And so what led you from like the finance side of things to what you're doing now?
So I have a bachelor's and master's in international business. So I've always loved like the negotiation and the business attraction. You know, I was always interested. I know in my master's program, we were talking about like German stores and how they were going to enter into the US market. I always found that interesting when you're looking at demographics and trends and even commute patterns of are they going to be interested in this product, and maybe the American lifestyle isn't ready for this yet. So that type of research and discovery has always been interesting to me. And so when I was in finance in the city of Sugar Land, there was an opportunity that came up. It was for business retention specifically. And it was a great learning opportunity to learn about our homegrown businesses, the businesses that were wanting to expand, the challenges and opportunities we had in our city, and where we are now. There's been a lot of change over the last 5 years. And I'm happy to say that we have a great future ahead of us.
So for people that know that Texas is a big state at the bottom of the United States, but where geographically is Sugar Land, Texas?
So we're about 20 minutes southwest of Houston. So we definitely have a lot of opportunity and benefit from being next to the fourth largest city in the United States. But we're about 110,000 people in population. If you're familiar with, we still sometimes call it 59, but it's really Interstate 69. It's really just 20 minutes southwest of Houston.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I can envision somebody listening or watching us just going, okay, so where exactly is this
Right. No, yeah, we're very
overall?
close. I mean, just get
Yeah,
on 59 Interstate 69, you'll be in Sugarland in no time.
yeah. And I mean, I still sort of envision people that are in or studying, international business, spending an awful lot of time like trying to bring companies, outside of the US into their area. And as big as
Mhm.
the, I mean, when we talk about so many countries, to me, after having traveled, a lot of the world myself, I sort of look at, countries oftentimes as states because
Mhm.
whenever you look at the United States and just our, vast sort of landmass that we have, um, do you sort of liken the same sort of activities to be able to bring businesses to Sugarland?
We do. I mean, the world does get smaller. Sometimes, obviously, not so much, but we focus on several countries, right? We definitely focus on Europe, and now really India, especially when it comes to life sciences. Their hub is growing. Taiwan, a lot of manufacturing for life sciences is happening there, and so we really try to bridge those relationships with those governments, but as well as those businesses in those countries. The businesses are more of a direct connection of, are you looking to expand? And if you're looking to expand, are you wanting to bring your manufacturing operations to the United States?
Yeah.
But definitely, we went to Bio 2024 in San
Yeah.
Diego. Our team went last in June. And it's the biggest international conference for life science, and there's a lot of countries there. And it was great to talk with those folks and see what we can do in Sugarland, Texas. And there's a lot happening in the Houston region as well for life sciences. And so it's definitely a growing hub.
It's one of my favorite annual conferences because you can
Yeah,
see kind of the world and life sciences all in one place.
you can.
um,
We had a lot of fun gathering pins and things like that as well from every different country. It's a lot of fun networking.
I'm trying to lean over right behind this side of my head is one of the Lego people that I collected while
Oh,
I
there
was
you
there. So
go.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I
No,
think there's a
I definitely have like
bioreactor
over
back
20
there
pins.
too. So
Oh,
yeah,
nice. Awesome. Yeah, that's
very
great.
good. So what attracted you to work in the city of Sugarland?
Um, funny story. I was born and raised in Houston, and so I'm very much used to that city aspect of it. And Sugarland's a little bit different. We're a bigger city, but it's still, Fort Bend County is still more like suburban lifestyle and things like that. It's changing quite a bit, but I wanted to try something new, and I had never been to Sugarland when I first came out here. And then when I got married, I moved out to Fort Bend County, and I was like, "Where's the noise?" You're used to the hustle and bustle, you're used to the cars, and here you can see the stars and things like that. And so I was like, what is going on? Now I'm definitely used to it, but it's a great city. We really care about our people, our residents, our businesses, our small businesses. We aim for a very high quality of life. And so I wanted in my career and in just my personal journey, I want to make sure I'm doing what's best for a community, and I'm helping and supporting a community the best I can. And Sugarland is the best place to do that.
Absolutely perfect. So can you explain, so what does the assistant director do, and how do you contribute to the city's economic growth?
Sure. So I really want to give props to my team because my team is a very hardworking team. I lead our business development team. We are in charge of business development, expansion, and attraction. Any projects that come in from either the governor's office or our partners, our regional partners, or businesses that we talk to directly and helping support their move even to their workforce or their top executive leadership in finding homes and things like that. But our primary goal is to create jobs, retain and create jobs within the city of Sugarland, and also bring in investment, whether that's local investment in that a business wants to expand with 100,000 square feet more, or a company is relocating their headquarters here from London. We do it all and in between any type of square footage. I was the business development manager before I stepped into this new role, and now my business development team really leads those projects, and really the props are to them. They really help us put those RFPs and those project leads and consultant notes together for those businesses.
And then what does it look like? What do the strategies look like that help to attract businesses to the area, so that they want to come to Sugarland?
Yeah, there's kind of like a two-prong approach that we do. There's ones that we know are just necessary, like especially when it comes to like permits and build out. We have, international companies where the requirements and just building an infrastructure here are different, right? And so we definitely want to help them out with that. So permits, inspections, marketing, like I said, housing. We do housing tours for executives and also for their workforce on these are the type of houses you need. We had a business visit from London, and just the houses are very different. They were like, I'm used to flats, and this is like a 6,000, 7,000 square foot home. And so it's just getting them used to it, being comfortable with the changes, being comfortable with the weather. And in Houston, especially, during the summer, we're like, if you want to visit us in the summer, it'll be a great surprise, but something you probably need to get used to. So there's that part of it. We want to make sure that we do really red carpet service for our businesses that are already here and ones that we're wanting to attract. Um, Customer service is our top priority. We are here to serve and we are here to prioritize our business needs, whatever that may be. Even if we don't know the answer or maybe that's not in our purview, we connect them and make sure that they get the answer and the help that they need. But we also have like an incentive toolbox, right? As an economic development corporation, we are 4A and 4B funded in Texas. So that is sales tax dollars that come into our economic development corporation that we can then reinvest back into our community. So we have several incentive programs that we use. Just yesterday, we went to our 4A corporation with an incentive restructure. That incentive restructure really details out more flexible programs for the evolving market. We're not where we were 5 years ago and probably won't be where we are now, 3 months from now, let's be honest. But we want to make sure to open the door to businesses and site selectors alike for what they're looking for. We don't want to be so rigid in our incentive programs to where we're not even having a conversation. So there's been some changes when it comes to primary job requirements, some changes to our medium wage, some changes on the requirements we have with return on investment to make sure that we're keeping up with the market and that we are becoming flexible to these businesses so they can grow, so they can at least come set up shop and grow, and we help them then invest more into our city. So it's a two-prong approach, but we're really here to help.
That's perfect. And so I mean, for most of the people listening or watching the podcast, they know that I sit in Colorado, right? So I'm, in one of these flyover zones, pretty much for life sciences as well. We have a pretty strong life sciences community here as well. I mean, we have all sorts of companies all around. I've interviewed people certainly on the East Coast, from Boston on down to North Carolina. I've also interviewed people in California, and so whenever I think about building like a life sciences infrastructure, it seems to me like whenever I was reviewing my notes, I was like, there is a really good community inside of Sugarland,
Mhm,
Texas for life sciences. And so
mhm.
whenever you said that you're going to bio and things like that, what sort of started things off, or what made life sciences attractive as a business area to focus on?
Absolutely. So in Sugarland, we really like to make data driven decisions and then build our incentive programs and our support around those data points. So in 2019, we did a workforce and target industry analysis where we looked at the target industries that we've had in the past and said, okay, are we still competitive in those? Do we need to add some more? And from that, we found that life sciences had grown organically in Sugarland over the last 2 decades. So we have a lot of homegrown businesses like Bluebond and Nutrition and Cuba Pharma and Hope Biosciences that are doing from pharmaceutical manufacturing to R&D and stem cell research. And so it became a focus area for us for business attraction. And then from that, we've also did a deeper dive with the life science strategy where we said, okay, we're competitive in these subsegments, right? We have pharmaceutical manufacturing, R&D, drug development, medical device, and healthcare as well. We have four major hospitals in Sugarland. But what exactly, as far as real estate, are we lacking? Are we needing? Or do we have? Um, And so that is what we're working on now, is creating a life science campus in Sugarland where a business can come in and say, hey, I'm a startup and I only need 5,000 square feet in bench space. But once I get FDA approval, I'll probably need 50,000 square feet and over 100,000 square feet. So we want to become a stepping stone for them just within the same city. We know it's very costly to move from place to place, especially with your equipment, your workforce, your R&D, your research, your knowledge. And so we want to provide that within the same city limits. And we also have university institutions like the University of Houston Sugar Land that has bioscience programs for workforce development. We also have technical colleges like the Texas State Technical College. I mean, right down, 5969, you have Rice University, A&M, those type of university and research institutions as well. And so we really have the workforce development component, we have the educational component, and we are now looking to supplement the real estate inventory so these companies can come in and at a different price point, because we are at a different price point than Houston, find their home within Sugarland.
It's so important to think about that end to end journey. I feel like as well, because there are certainly companies that you can easily, I would say, in loose terms, or easily transplant from one place to
Mhm.
another based on kind of scaling needs and things like that. I feel like in many cases, whether it's a medical device developer who has to be close enough to suppliers to be able to produce the device that they're creating, all the way through to the individual pharmaceutical company who is scaling a drug. And frankly, as they're scaling, they're sort of qualifying things, and they probably want to disturb their equipment even less after it's all set up, right? So
Right.
because you would have to go through that same process all over again. And so it is so critical, I feel like, in life sciences, and I
Mhm.
feel like many investors and many business owners don't really understand, kind of the reality of how this all plays out in the world until they have to get involved in it. So yeah.
Oh, no, it's a definitely long and complicated process, but that's one thing that we are very honest and upfront with our businesses or anyone that we're in active negotiations with, is we're not in this for the short term. We're in this for the long term, value for you and the city. We want to make sure to take care of your workforce and your company and want to make sure that we're creating the environment where you can grow. It's very difficult to get up and move just because, oh, hey, you don't have the land that I need to expand. And so we want to already have that for you. We don't want you to have to honestly move out of Sugarland, right? We want you to stay and grow in Sugarland, grow your workforce here, live here, work here, and make sure that you have the best quality of life that we can offer.
That's so important, Alba.
Yeah.
So once companies are there, how does the city support, nurture companies like Hope Biosciences or Cuva Pharma?
So we really are in always active conversations with our companies. I think every economic development organization has, your BRE visits and want to make sure that you're on top and helping your businesses. But really, we we take it a step. I like to think, a step ahead of that, and make sure that we're as responsive as we can. Um, if you reach out to us, we will call you back, text you back, email you back that same day. If you have an issue, we will be out there. I mean, I've had businesses who said, "Hey, I really need to get this fire inspection done today." And I'm like, "Okay, great. We call the fire marshal. We're going to be there in 20 minutes." I mean, really, the customer service is our priority. And so, throughout the years, we've really had great relationships with our businesses like Ho Biosciences, Cuba Pharma, our manufacturing businesses like Accredo Packaging, because I like to think we've provided the customer support that they deserve. We're there. If you need our support, if you need our service, we're going to be there. We're going to show up. And
Mhm.
I think, and now as assistant director of economic development in the city of Sugarland, my main focus and my main goal is to show up for our businesses. They need to know that we're here to support them. We had a hurricane come through here a couple of weeks ago. Our entire team was out there picking up debris, checking in, like, hey, just calling you. Hey, this is my cell phone. Like, what's going on? How's your family? What are
Mm.
you okay? Like, how are your homes? Not just your businesses, but how's your family? How are your kids? How are your pets? It's a much deeper relationship.
So important. I've been involved in companies before that have been similar, where they just seem more connected to the people and community that's
Mhm,
around them. And
mhm.
to me, it makes it all that better to just want to stay there, want to stay involved in things like that.
Oh,
Um,
no, absolutely. And our businesses are a great community as well. Like even during like, disasters that we've had, they've come out and volunteered and helped clean up the city with us. And I mean, I really like to say that that culture and that diversity within our business community has really set us apart. I mean, we know we can count on them and they know we can count that they can count on us.
So I think that plays into the next question I had for you, but just want to make sure that we fully cover it as well for anybody that's listening or considering, as well, reaching out and at least having a conversation with you. What advantages does Sugarland offer to life sciences companies compared to other locations?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just start off with what I just left off on is diversity. We're within the most diverse county in the nation, and we're very proud of that. I know that Houston itself, the food scene is amazing. And so our culture, our people reflect that. And we want to make sure that people feel comfortable. We've talked to a lot of companies that are international, and they're like, what, I don't know what it is like in Texas because all I know are cowboy boots. And I'm like, no, like, we're very proud of our cowboy roots, but we're also very proud of our diversity, right? And I make sure to mention that. But just economically, we also have a Sugarland Regional Airport, and also connections to two major airports like Bush and Hobby in Houston. And so that is definitely an advantage, especially with international life science companies or companies that travel quite a bit for their own business. Um, I had mentioned before, we're at a different price point. So, if you're a pharmaceutical manufacturing company, for example, our industrial land is at about $12, $14 a square foot, versus what you would get it in Houston.
Right.
Now, we are not wanting to compete with Houston. We're definitely a supplement and complement to Houston. And so, if you're wanting to expand or if you're wanting a cheaper price point, we're definitely the home for you. Um, Other than that, we have our incentive toolboxes that we have restructured recently to be more flexible. Um, our direct incentive program, which is a cash incentive program that is geared towards creating jobs, the minimum requirement before was 100 jobs. When we did our research, we figured out like what life science company is going to have 100 jobs to begin with. So
Right.
we lowered it to 10 jobs. So if you have 10 jobs, you're able to qualify for our direct incentive program. Same thing with our median wage. Before, I'm going to be honest, we had rarely diversified between a salaried job and an hourly job. Um, Usually your hourly paid jobs are going to be the higher employee count, and we were missing that. And so we have lowered our median wage from $78,500 average wage to 61,000. And that's a big jump and more of an opportunity to attract talent for that business where they know, hey, that incentive package is going to support my manufacturing workforce. That incentive package is going to support my technical jobs. And so that has been very important for us. We also have quality of life. We really pride ourselves in that. Our Visit Sugarland brand is our tourism target industry, and they do a great job with events and things that really help our residents and our workforce provide those amenities, those really cool things, those Taylor Swift dance parties that we all like to go to. But we also have parks and trails and sports, and mountain bike riding and really great events that we have at what we call our Crown Festival Park that really play into that quality of life. Um, I really like to say that without, our park staff or public works staff, the city would not be as easy as it is to show off. When we do site selection trips, everyone's always in awe of how beautiful our city is, and that definitely plays into how our public works and our park staff take care of our city. So those are like a few things of what we have going on for us. But really, I would invite any of your listeners, like if you ever want to take a trip down to Sugarland, please let us know. We'd be happy to show you around.
Perfect. And I mean, one of the things that have not shared with you before is I have a very close friend that's in of Indian descent, and he's there as well, and absolutely loves where he is, and he's like, I
Great.
don't think we're ever moving again. So,
Great. We
um,
don't want them to.
yeah, yeah, he's very committed to being only there. So, and
That's great.
I can't blame him. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, how does Sugarland's proximity to Houston and the Texas Medical Center impact economic development?
Definitely within our life science target industry. I think the Texas Medical Center with like Helix Park and all the life science hub and development that they're doing out there, especially like Levitt Green with the Heinz project that they had, has really made the life science hub kind of take form. I think for a long time, our area, the Houston region, was known for oil and gas. And
Mm,
life sciences was something that was happening, but some people saw it, but you were not really thinking about it. And now it's really taken form. And the Texas Medical Center and what they're doing has really played a part in that. I think that the hospital growth really matches the population growth that we're having and are going to have. We have, Houston Methodist Sugarland, Memorial Hermann Sugarland, MD Anderson is coming, St. Luke's is part of the Sugarland hospital system. Every single one of those hospitals is expanding because of the population growth all the way down to the border. So when you look at Fort Bend County, where we are, a lot of it is undeveloped and really growing in like cities like Fulshire and cities all the way down to the border are booming overnight just because people are looking for places to live now, right? Population's growing. So we've really uh, complemented for that, especially like with medical device manufacturing. A lot of these hospitals use those as supplemental companies or third party companies to help their operations. And so like I said, it takes time. Like when you look at the research triangle and how long it's taken to
right.
really become that place, it takes some time, but we're now reaping the benefits of all the work that has happened over the last two to 3 decades.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you looked at North Carolina, right, and I just recently did an interview on this, right? So they're celebrating North Carolina Research Park is celebrating their 40th anniversary. They started it like 60 years ago or something. So,
Hmm.
I mean, it's crazy amount of time whenever you think
Right.
about, kind of the way that these things flow, but at the same time,
Hmm.
it sounds like there's an awful lot, going on there now that will further accelerate things as well. Um, are there
Absolutely.
are there any innovative sort of initiatives that you're particularly excited about right now?
We are within life sciences. There's a tract of land. It's about 200 acres next to our regional airport. And a project that we're working on, and one that has kind of like a funny twist on, is we're wanting to build a power plant on that tract of land. I think power has always been a hot topic. But in Texas, when we were out there attracting businesses, they were like, "Well, what are y'all gonna do about those hurricanes?" You know. But then we had Winter Storm Uri, and so now they're like, "Okay, hold on, you have hurricanes and winter storms. Like, what's going on?" And that's just gonna on expanding, right? And so we were like, okay, there's a gap. We need a dependable power source. What can we do about that? We've had great power, partnerships, but what is something innovative that the city of Sugarland can do that is trailblazing to make sure that the quality of life for our businesses and our residents is exactly where it needs to be or higher? And so that is an idea that we're working on. Is something that is hopefully going to start construction in 2025 and wrap up and be done and on the ground by 2027. But the goal is for that power plant to be a rapid start power plant, or black start, as it's known in the industry. It uses technology that can basically turn that power plant off and on within 5 minutes. So it works kind of like a car engine. It will run on natural gas, and it'll also be an ancillary service to the ERCOT grid, the Texas power grid. And that is very important for us because the more that these power plants can be added to the grid, the more resilient it can be. And I mean, again, going back to the population growth and the business growth that is happening in Texas, by 2030, if not within the next 3 years, the demand is going to overcome the supply. And so there are certain steps that we need to take now to make sure that our businesses and our residents are taken care of. And that's a big project that, 2 years ago, we were like, there's no way we can do that. But now we're saying, okay, you know what? Let's try it. let's see what we can do and let's do it right. So that is a big one, that if the vision of that life science campus on that tract of land comes to life, will be powered by that power plant. Um, and that's very important for us because there's R&D companies and there's life science companies that can't have the voltages and the sags and power because they will lose R&D or knowledge, or they'll have to kick back their equipment, and that takes hours for it to come back on, and so you're losing productivity, you're losing time and workforce salaries with that. So we're really excited about the project. I've learned more about the ERCOT grid than I ever thought I was going to know, but it's really exciting for us to be working on.
It's great. It's great to hear, but I also want to echo what you had said. Right? I mean, a lot of the things that a lot of these companies develop are their live cell cultures, and the only way to keep a live cell culture alive is, oftentimes by consuming power in one way or the other. You have to consume power to feed it, or you have to consume power to continue to refrigerate it, or whatever, what have you. But
Absolutely.
yeah, it's an interesting challenge for sure.
Yeah, and it's very costly if you lose them, right?
Hmm.
Like, during Hurricane Beryl, I don't think um it's been all over the news. A lot of people lost power for multiple days, and specifically for stem cells, we had a company who just that was a challenge, and they are only able to survive, I think, a max of 36 hours or something like that. And so, what can we do to not have them lose that value? Because everything translates into money and even time, right?
Mm,
And so we want to make sure to fill the gaps that we can.
absolutely. So, if we were to fast forward 5 to 10 years into the future, how do you envision the life sciences industry evolving in Sugarland?
Oh man, that's a great question, and one that I'm very visionary about. I mean, if everything fell into place, we would have that power plant, powering that life science campus. And we would have it 100% full, 0% vacancy, and have it stacked from 25,000 square feet real estate spaces to over 100,000, 200,000 square feet. Have a workforce development program in line with our University of Houston Sugarland campus that provided those jobs and created a constant funnel of jobs for that life science campus. Um, and do a lot of good for a lot of people. I mean, life science, for us, does not include the healthcare industry, but it definitely supplements it. And all the research and innovation that these companies are doing is really helping the medical field and the healthcare of all of us, for the next, for the future. So if all falls into place, we'd have a developed life science campus that was at the forefront of research in the medical field and life science field.
That's I mean, sounds like a perfect vision for the future,
Yeah.
and one that we could, we can all get behind. I was on an M&A call earlier today, and listening to investors essentially saying, "Hey, look, they're very bullish about 2025 and what it's going to be." I think there's
Mhm,
still a lot of reservation for what 2024 continues to play out to be. Um,
mhm,
but I would think for at least a lot of life science companies, as we watch them grow, it's going to be one of those things where, as they get investment, they will continue to look for locations and continue to want to grow. And that goes from I think the very small company, the 10-person company that you talked about a few minutes ago, all the way up to
mhm,
the hundreds or tens of thousands of people, right? So it just depends, because we what was it? We hit kind of the middle of last year, and there was a real starvation of capital, and everybody just said, all of the companies just more or less said, "Hey, look, we're going to slow progress because we don't, and conserve cash because we don't know what the future is going to hold." And so, for organizations like you, but also, organizations in general, life sciences, I think it's an interesting sort of dichotomy that you're dealing with, but
mhm.
one that you have to build infrastructure for today to be able to have tomorrow.
Absolutely, and I think that, it's very interesting, and it's kinda like a waiting game, and it has been a waiting game with these markets, but, like, especially with VC, it's interesting, and I'm waiting to see what will happen with that as we enter this kind of recession type situation or depression type situation. But also it presents an opportunity for our organization to cover that gap and create incentive programs that attract those companies that say, hey, okay, we know that's happening, we know that's a challenge, but we'll cover that financially with this investment. And then from there, pivot when the market will eventually come back. And so then we can restructure our incentives that way. I think for a long time, our incentives stayed stagnant in a way, and like, hey, we've always done this and we've always had tax abatements and we've always had sales tax rebates and these things, but the market is no longer just there, right? Those are great incentive programs to have, but you need something additional to that. Like, what else can we do? How can we get creative? And how can it be a project by project analysis instead of like a one size fits all? So it's going to be interesting. And I honestly, I know that sometimes we look at it with like, oh, that's a little heavy and that's going to be challenging. But for us, we really look at that as an opportunity and a silver lining of sorts to see what we
All too good. So, what's the greatest leadership advice that you've ever received?
to slow down.
Mm.
Uh, I think if you know me personally, you know that I'm quick. I want to get stuff done and I want it now and let's do it. And that's why the visions are so big. But really sometimes, especially with businesses and when we have those relationships, it's important to give time to make them feel like they belong in the city. And that's the priority is what are your needs and how can I help you? How can we have this conversation? If it's 8 a.m., if it's 5 a.m., I've gotten calls at 8 p.m. of like, hey, my plumbing is messed up. Okay, no worries. We're going to be there in 30 minutes. But it's slowing down and thinking through the decisions and thinking through what does the city need and what is the city's priority and how can we help. But in leadership and with my team, there's definitely like a high expectation for our team and for our department, but we really value, within our team work life balance, and we value that mental health always stays at the forefront. And so that does take slowing down. And, as the younger me would have appreciated that a lot more, because when you're young, you're like, no, I'm just going to go, 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 go. But sometimes it's good to slow down.
Yeah, I mean, it's an important lesson to take in, right? Because the only way to ever get the right level of detail, the only way to manage change, the only way to, like you said, manage those aspects of work life balance is really to have some level of governor that kind of throttles things, that says, hey, look, we're gonna slow down, but in the end, we will be able to go faster because of the fact that we'll have everything worked
Exactly.
out.
Exactly. Exactly.
What inspires you?
Um, for me, it's community, and it really is, seeing people come together, but also seeing what we can do. I just went to a third world country, and I saw a lot of obstacles and I saw a lot of challenges, a lot of lessons learned. And you realize we never want to get to that point. So let me go back to my community and make sure that we don't do that, right? Let's make
Mm.
sure that we're proactive instead of reactive. I think that's a big one is I never want to be reactive to where the market got ahead of me. The market's always going to be 2 steps ahead of me, but I want to at least make it 2 steps instead of 10 steps, right? So inspiration really comes for me from our community and how we can help and how we can leave if we leave this city today. When I go home, I want to make sure that I did whatever I could today to make it better tomorrow.
Thank you for sharing that. What concerns you?
The economy, the economy as a whole, I think, and what the impact will be. I think that in retail, in our tourism industry, has rebounded quite nicely. I think spending is tapering off a little bit now, and so what does that mean? And how deep is that impact going to go? I think the office market is still very much a concern of mine. Even after COVID, it's almost been 4 to 5 years, but the impact is still there. We've tried to throw incentive programs at the wall to see what sticks, but properties are just not being held longer than maybe 2 years at a time, and so the value, just long term value, just really isn't able to be seen. Um, I think, that would be my biggest concern is like, what is the economy going to do? How deep is the impact going to be? And how are we going to see it to where we can cover those gaps immediately? Um, to make sure that our businesses stay. I think business retention is a lot easier than business attraction. But when you have an evolving market, that business retention becomes that much more important. When you see people consolidating into smaller square footage, when you see people having a hybrid work environment to then maybe going completely virtual, what does that mean to sales tax if you don't have like actual jobs coming into your mixed use developments in your retail? What does that mean? And so I think there's always that challenge of a daily challenge of keeping up with that data and making sure that you're seeing the patterns forming to where you can get ahead of them. So it's literally keeps me awake at night.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly am interested in seeing what happens in September with the Fed, and whether or
Mhm,
not if he lowers interest rates. The shock of all shocks to me. I mean, I'm not an extremely political person, but at the same time, to watch sort of us be in an election year and for
mhm,
interest rates not to be lowered to make,
mhm.
to help bolster the economy was kind of a shock. But I mean, given some of the recent turns, maybe there's a change in heart. I don't know. I have no idea.
Well,
And definitely not
we'll
a
just
mind
have to
reader.
wait and see. There's always gonna be an impact. It is just for us being ready for that,
Right.
and at least trying to pinpoint what could that be, where from COVID, we know that it's not realistic to know everything, but to be ready to pivot.
Yeah. Last question. What excites you?
The future. There's been a lot of changes. We're really into redevelopment in Sugarland right now. We were at a point where we're landlocked. And so we're, instead of going horizontal, we're having to go vertical. And that's different for us. I think in Texas as a whole, because we have so much land and we're such a big state, it's been easy to go horizontal for a long time. But we're really having to look at new things and think about them vertically. But we're on the right path. And Sugarland has a trailblazing mission to be the best that we can be and even better for our citizens, our residents, and our businesses. And I'm really excited on what that means because you can really define that any which way. And for us, it is business attraction and life sciences. For us, it is bringing a mix of diversity and demographics to our city. It is bringing a diversity of income. It is bringing a diversity of housing. So that if you work here, even if it's, and the example I use, if it's at Starbucks, we want you to live here. We want you to spend your money here, and so we're really excited about that. I'm excited to see the growth in just kids in the future. There's a lot of university systems, a lot of workforce development programs that we're working on, and I'm excited to see what that brings for us in the future workforce. So
Well, Alba, thank you so much for being on the Life Science Success podcast. I really appreciate you being
of
here
course,
and sharing with us, all the great things that are going on in Sugarland. And I wish you the best. I certainly hope
yeah.
that your 5 to 10 year vision turns out, and you have an even bigger life sciences community in the future.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for listening to Life Science Success. For complete details about this podcast, including show notes, how to get in touch with guests, and more episodes, please visit www.lifesciencesuccess.com. If there's someone you'd like for us to invite to the show as a guest, please let me know by sending me a message at the podcast website. Please click subscribe on your favorite podcast app, share the podcast, or tell a friend about it, and last but not least, rate the podcast. Thank you again.